morning. It is Monday, December 22nd, 2014. This is your morning edition on I-24 News. Coming up later today, President Barack Obama's year-ender speech is tested over the weekend when two cops are assassinated in New York City over racial divides in America. 3 months after the siege in Kobane began, we take a closer look at the daily life in the city that refuses to fall into the hands of the Islamic State organization. And later on the show, no surprise, Israel breaks the World Guinness record for dreidel spinning, and Israeli politicians break the record of donut campaigning in this holiday season. Good morning, I'm Yael Levi. We begin with news from the United States, where President Barack Obama has strongly condemned the killing of two New York City police officers shot by a man who then killed himself on Saturday. Authorities said the New York City shooter had indicated on social media that he might seek revenge for recent U.S. police killings of unarmed black men. Rising racial tensions were on one of the topics that President Obama, American president, touched on during his end-of-the-year press conference on Friday as the country grappled with the rising tide of discontent over race relations among black Americans. Now, to further discuss this and President Barack Obama's speech on Friday, we are joined in studio by Dr. Ehud Zomer from the Department of Political Science at the Tel Aviv University. Good morning to you,
Good morning.
Dr.
Glad to be
Zomer.
here.
And, of course, by one of my favorite, Channel 1 Foreign Affairs Senior Editor, Oren Ehari. Good morning to you.
Hello, good morning to you.
Made you blush there. But first, let's take a look at the latest from New York City, where two policemen were assassinated over the weekend and where America, right, as we mentioned, is grappling yet again with racial divides.
New York City was on high alert Sunday, and the assassination of two police officers drew stern warnings from New York officials. Mayor Bill de Blasio told New Yorkers that the fatal shooting was an attack against them as well.
We depend on our police to protect us against forces of criminality and evil. They are a foundation of our society, and when they are attacked, it is an attack on the very concept of decency. Therefore, every New Yorker should feel they too were attacked. Our entire city was attacked by this heinous individual.
Officers Wenjan Liu and Rafael Ramos were gunned down at point-blank range while sitting beside one another in a police car in Brooklyn. Before the shootings on Saturday afternoon, the gunman, 28-year-old Ismail Brinsley, stated his intention to kill police officers on Instagram as retribution for the recent police killings of Michael Brown and Eric Garner. New Yorkers reacted to the shootings with outrage.
To be turned around and executed in our streets. What are we living in Dodge City or something like that?
At the end of the day, two families was missing somebody for the holidays, and it's wrong.
Brinsley committed suicide shortly after the assassination. The shooting has heightened tensions in a city already roiled by demonstrations against police brutality, after a grand jury declined to charge a white police officer involved in the chokehold death of the unarmed Eric Garner. New York's condemnation of the killing of the two police officers is likely to pose a difficult question for the city. Where was the outrage when it was the citizens' lives that were on the line?
Where he shot himself in the head.
And we are joined in studio by Dr. Ehud Zomer of Tel Aviv University. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Okay, first of all, President Obama on Friday gave a speech to the nation that kind of culminates 2014. Needless to say, on Saturday this happens, and many in the United States are pointing fingers at President Obama. I want to take a look, first of all, with everybody in the studio, and what President Obama had to say on Friday when it comes to racial relations in the United States before this actual killing, but clearly something that is dominating his last term in presidency. This is what the American president had to say on Friday.
How we're thinking about race relations right now has been colored by Ferguson, the Garner case in New York. There are specific instances, at least, where law enforcement doesn't feel as if it's being applied in a colorblind fashion. The task force that I formed is supposed to report back to me in 90 days, not with a bunch of abstract musings about race relations, but some really concrete, practical things that police departments and law enforcement agencies can begin implementing right now to rebuild trust.
Now, Dr. Zomer, I want to start with you. You know, I think that for 6 years in the White House, the American president has been hyper-conscious to be everybody's president. I think it was in his 2004, or was it the campaigning Democratic National 2004 convention speech, he actually cast himself as president for everyone, kind of to put himself aside from the first African-American president. And here we are in the last 2 years of his presidency. America seems to be going backwards to the 60s.
It's true that race relations is a major issue today. I don't think we're going back to the 60s. It's a different story. And as Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York, said, this is the great challenge of the leaders today. And those leaders, interestingly enough, are leaders where race is a major issue in their own life story. Obviously, President Barack Obama is the first African-American president of the United States. Bill de Blasio himself is married to an African woman, and his son, an African-American teenager, was a major figure in his campaign. This is a major challenge, and the challenge is not just because of those specific stories of the Garner story in New York or the story from Ferguson, but the fact is that the statistics are very clear. The case, just three very short statistics. The chance of an African-American child, my children's age today, when he is born, is 3 times as large to serve time, to be incarcerated, than a white boy. The chance of an African American to be shot between the year of 2010 and 2012 was 20 times higher than a white person, and the chance of an African American in certain districts to be charged with charges related to marijuana is 30 times as high as the chance of a white American. So obviously the figures are clearly stacked against the African American population.
You know, they are stacked against the African American population, but you know, Oren Nahari with us in studio as well. I'm wondering out loud, this coming and surfacing up in the last 2 years of Barack Obama. I mean, this is a man who's actually fighting for a legacy. It's not going so well, if we can be honest about that. Is this surfacing more, do you think, because of his racial background, because him being the African-American president? Because we're hearing a lot of condemnation. Giuliani, for example, said that the killing of the cops in New York City is a direct result of President Obama's policies.
Yes, he would say it, won't he? Now,
Yeah.
not everything in the world or in the United States even is about Barack Obama. We have to remember that there are the figures that Dr. Sommer mentioned, and rightfully so. And we've got a police force who's more and more militarized, who's using more and more weapons, heavy weapons.
Which many can say is actually in New York a direct result of Giuliani's years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we've got a police force who's basically and obviously is for law and order, more, let's say, more Republican, less concerned with the civil rights issue. They have to clear the crime of the streets. And of course, America, as we know, there is crime, not as much as we think there is because of Hollywood, but there is crime, and there are people there who can march into every supermarket and buy Kalashnikovs.
Right.
And what have you. Now, the point is that this thing happened, and we didn't show the item where we see the policeman turning their back
On Bill de Blasio.
on Bill de Blasio, and they're saying he's the one who sent them. He didn't send them, and I cannot see that once you're criticizing the police force, it means that you are telling some hoodlum in Baltimore go and kill cops. It's problematic.
It's problematic.
You cannot on the other hand,
that,
you cannot on the other hand give automatic backing to a police force that's killing people on the streets without having to resort to that.
To resort to that, or without, and most of them being unarmed. But looking at, Dr. Sommer, speaking of President Obama's legacy, as we mentioned, these are the last 2 years of his presidency. He's facing a Congress and a Senate that are clearly, not in favor of any decision that he makes. And then last week we saw him actually doing this turn that many will argue had to happen many years ago, and that's the turn on Cuba, and that's opening the door to relations between Cuba and the United States. From the speech on Friday, this is what the American president had to say. One of the topics in the speech was Cuba. Let's have a listen.
I share the concerns of dissidents there and human rights activists that this is still a regime that represses its people. That doesn't mean that over the next 2 years we can't anticipate them taking certain actions that we may end up finding deeply troubling. And that could put significant strains on the relationship.
And again, Dr. Sommer, I'm wondering with you out loud, I think all of us will agree that the Cuba-U.S. relations is something that could have been resolved in the last 10 years. It took an American president to do that. But a move as such, what does it spell to the American constituency? Why now? I mean, is he pushing for a legacy in any way, shape, or form? Is he also showing something to the rest of the world? This is an executive decision. It's my decision.
I think that the move with Cuba should be perceived in the perspective of what happens generally with the Latino voters in America. I think the move is is a part of. I don't think it's something that happened in the last 2 months after the midterm elections, when the claim is that Obama is trying to establish a legacy. What Obama is doing, and he's been doing that since 2008,
right,
is trying to create an electoral realignment in America. There were just a few periods where electoral realignment happened in America. FDR is one case, Reagan is another case, and what Obama is trying to do today, what President Obama is trying to do today in many ways, is to establish an unbreakable relation or tie between the Latino voters and the Democratic Party. And this is a tie that would pay off hopefully for the Latinos as well, but definitely for the Democrats for years to come. The bump that he got among Latinos just from the move with Cuba
right,
and with the immigration reform, which I think are parts of the same move, is about 15%.
So can we say, if in fact, Hillary Clinton is the one running in the next election, that these are moves in many ways handing, presents to the upcoming, Democratic candidate in the United States?
And establishing his own legacy.
As well.
And
Why?
establishing his own legacy, because if you wanted to create a coalition, a new coalition, what would be called over the years the Obama coalition,
right,
then you're creating a legacy that is going to be going to be years long.
And why would you argue the fact
that he just lost her the next elections because the Cuban immigrants and other people in the United States who say, okay, Obama succumbed maybe again to dictators. He gave them recognition. He gave them a lifting of embargo without receiving anything in return. No more democracy in Cuba, etc., etc. And the Cuban exiles, especially in Florida, are very, very powerful. And those people who voted Democrats most of the years, maybe now lost her Florida, and with it, he lost her the next election.
Well, I beg to differ here, because if you look at the statistics, the majority of young Cuban Americans are in favor of this move by President Obama. President Obama is being very cautious. He's using only his executive powers. For instance, he cannot lift the embargo. This is something that only Congress can do, and in that sense, he pushes the Republicans in Congress into a corner. Because at the end of the day, if the move is popular among Cuban Americans,
right,
among Latinos in general, and the Republicans don't make this move,
then they lost
then they lost
the Latino vote.
Lost even more.
Yeah. It's either way. But one point, with your permission, which is very important, I think. With this move, he showed that at the point of his most weakness, he's the strongest. He doesn't have to listen to the Congress. He doesn't have to listen to the Senate. He doesn't have to listen to his own party. He doesn't have to listen to anybody. I'm just doing it because I feel it's right. What does it mean? Concerning the veto in the Security Council, concerning Israeli Palestinians. He can do, with his executive power, veto is totally presidential. If now what we see in Cuba, which is much more important in the eyes of Americans than Israel-Palestinians veto, what does it mean whether Obama and Obama alone will decide I have got 2 more years, I can do whatever I like in this respect.
I'm wondering also that, it's a very interesting point that we haven't discussed in the last few days. I'm wondering out loud also with you, Dr. Zimmer, is that something that, do we think that a move as such also portrays itself to the rest of the world, as Mr. Nahari just said, that in the UN Security Council, when it comes to Israel, Obama is basically saying, take a look at what I'm doing here. I can do this to you guys as well. Or are we just far-reaching?
I think Obama is a basketball player. He's an avid golfer, but he's also a basketball player. And yesterday, the day before in his speech, he mentioned that now he's entering the fourth quarter. Everybody who's who loves the basketball knows that
it's the fourth
the important
quarter,
things happens in sometimes in the third quarter, but definitely the fourth quarter determines who wins.
Clearly, you like basketball. Okay, yeah.
Or football, same metaphor. Yeah.
I'm sitting with men. Okay, and moving on to this is the fourth quarter.
And this is the fourth quarter. In that sense, I think the notion that Obama will not veto a decision against Israel is a notion that is based on the fact that the game actually ends at the end of the fourth quarter. And I think if Obama is trying to preserve a legacy, the post-presidency career of presidents today, especially young presidents such as President Clinton, Obama himself, is an important element. And I don't think he's going to burn any bridges. And in that sense, I don't see any structural changes in American politics that would lead him to make any dramatic changes with respect to his foreign policy in Israel. And in the Middle East, his main issue right now, and he said that, is fighting the radical Islam.
Right.
So in that sense, I don't think he's willing to alienate Israel or any of other American allies in the region. And I think if anything, that would have, and if we talk about the elections here in Israel, I think that as far as the Americans are concerned, I think the elections here are to a large extent whether Israel is going to go in the direction of a more nationalist, isolationist direction, or is going to more go in a direction of the Obama direction, which is creating a liberal perspective of the world, where the world is based on coalitions, and even in the Middle East, Israel has some potential for coalitions with strategic alliances with various countries.
My point is, I agree with Dr. Zomer, but 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 10 years ago, there wouldn't have been any discussion. It would have been clear-cut that a decision coming to the UN, there is an American veto. Today, there is a doubt.
No, and I think that's one of the interesting things, not putting aside the speech of Obama on Friday, that move with Cuba and all his moves, and that's exactly it. There's a doubt, is the United States aligning itself with Israel? I tend to agree with you, Dr. Zomer, that it probably will, but the fact that there's a doubt about it is the interesting bit.
And just one little point, I think Cuba was a low-hanging fruit for Obama. It was something that was in the cards for a few years, you said it yourself, for a decade or so.
It's ridiculous to think that Americans were still concerned about, the dictator in Cuba. I'm wondering out loud.
Well, first and foremost, it's the humiliation, the pay of pigs, and then, of course, the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Right.
And from then on...
It's 50 years.
It's 50 years, but we have to remember as well that Fidel Castro is an interesting figure, the cigars, the bird, Che Guevara, what have you, but it was and still is a dictatorship on its border that humiliated the United States twice in a part of a couple of years,
right.
And from then on it's cemented until these days. And maybe it took also the change between Fidel and Raúl Castro that the United States can do this.
I think in a broader perspective, if you look at the geopolitical changes, I think that Cuba is just one part of the general Obama strategy, where you look and the Putin case wasn't really discussed extensively in the news conference, but obviously it's between the lines, right, if it's not talked about explicitly. And I think if you look at Obama's foreign policy, where it takes patience, it takes time. If you mentioned Giuliani earlier, Giuliani
yes,
has all sorts of criticism. One of the criticism was that President Putin is a real man, he's a real leader. This is Giuliani's words, and we see that 9 months later, things look a little different. And in that sense, and Cuba in many ways is the same way. Cuba was supported by Venezuela. Venezuela, just like Iran, just like Russia, are hurt by the plummeting oil prices. And in that sense, the 21st century politics that President Obama is trying to enhance, to sustain, seems to be paying off, at least recently.
In many
to a
ways.
Point. He started it with, you can argue with Iran, with North Korea, to restart, a new start with the relationship. Didn't work so well there.
No,
we'll have to see.
No, there we'll have to see. And speaking of, international humiliations, which are very important, I think, to the American psyche, but also North Korea, it's a perfect time to move on to what I deem the story that I love this year, only because it feels like the story that keeps on giving, and that's North Korea. It has said that the United States accusations that it was involved in a cyber attack on Sony Pictures were groundless slander, and that it wanted a joint investigation into the incident with the United States. Of course, North Korea also warned late yesterday, that any retaliation, even proportional, as President Obama, and two accusations against it will not go quietly. Now, in response to those remarks, the United States stands by its assertion that North Korea is to blame for the Sony hacking. And so this bizarre saga that involves Hollywood and two nuclear nations, and yes, us in the media, continues. Still with us, of course, are my friends Or Nahari and Dr. Zomer. I want to take a look at what President Obama had to say in his speech on Friday about this North Korea saga that doesn't seem to be going away. Let's have a listen.
Sony is a corporation. It suffered significant damage. There were threats against its employees. I am sympathetic to the concerns that they faced. Having said all that, yes, I think they made a mistake. All of them are going to be... We cannot have a society in which some dictator someplace can start imposing censorship here in the United States. They caused a lot of damage, and we will respond. We will respond proportionally, and we'll respond in a place and time and manner that we choose.
Also joined from California by I-24 News correspondent Anthony Grant. Good morning to you, Anthony, or good evening, good night.
It's all good.
It's all good. It's all good. I mean, clearly this is not going away. I'm just wondering the responses in the United States to the North Koreans saying, hold on, it wasn't us. We'd like to investigate this together, but also if you try to retaliate, we'll be very, very angry. Is this still playing as strong as it seems from here over there in the United States?
Absolutely, Al. It's like you said, it's the story that will not go away, and it keeps on giving on many levels. I mean, it's gone beyond, I would say, operatic at this point, when you have North Korea basically saying that they want the cooperation in sort of a probe, which, of course, it's in a word, it's laughable.
Yeah.
But then again, you have them saying, well, and if you don't cooperate, we're going to blow up the White House. So again. How do you process that? Well, it keeps making headlines, of course, right and left. There's a farcical quality to it, but of course, as Obama said in part of his talk there, the consequences thus far, economically alone, have been very big and impactful for Sony. And there's even talk now that Sony Corporation might be wanting to, at some point, sell off the studio because it's becoming a bit of a troublemaker, one might say.
No, I mean, that's already frightening in itself. But yes, over the weekend also we had a reaction from it's the Guardians of Peace is the group, correct?
Yes.
The Guardians of Peace, exactly. The hacking.
Fantastic name, by the way.
A great name. Also, the initials are quite controversial. GOP. Think about it. So the GOP, Guardians of Peace. If we have that available, they came out over the weekend with a response to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I don't know if all of you saw that. And that was them essentially saying it's not the North Koreans. It's funny that you decided that it's the North Koreans. And it was a trolling message for those digitally enhanced people, a trolling message to them when they respond on the Federal Bureau of Investigation website. And they put out a video saying that not only it's not them, but they had something to say to the FBI. I'm wondering if we have that to show to the audiences. Again, in a minute, I'll let you all see that it's quite striking. But they're also they come out and say it's not us. So I'm wondering out loud. First of all, actually, Mr. Nahari and Tony's still with us, and Dr. Zamar. I'm wondering out loud, with all due respect, do you think it's the North Koreans?
Yes.
Why? I mean, come on.
Okay.
Is a country that bored and sitting there and hacking a film company?
Who is it? The Estonians, the Lats, the Zimbabweans? I mean, North Korea is not a country...
Why can't it be, I'm sorry, I'm asking everybody now, why can't it be a 17-year-old kid in his basement in Iowa?
Because he doesn't go to a nuclear war, so to speak, against a corporation. He will take down a film and watch it in his home with his friends. That's what kids do all the time, or the TV series or whatever. Now to go to all that huge trouble, to go and threat, and the vocabulary, and yes, the Kim Jong-un, like his father, like his grandfather, are not known for their great sense of humor and their own cynicism and subtle irony towards themselves. They take themselves, and their legacy, by the way, if we're talking about it, very, very seriously. And yes, they do all kinds of very, very stupid in our eyes, but not in their own eyes. This is their national pride. This is the pride of the country. They go and threat South Korea, and they go and threat the entire world for whatever reason there is, and they do it in their own voice. So who do you think it is?
But don't we feel sometimes, and this is a question actually to all of you, I always feel over the course of the last, I'd say, 2 or 3 years, that North Korea has become the butt of so much rumor and supposition, so many things that we cannot, substantiate as journalists. When it comes out that Kim Jong-un, he fed his uncle to wolves, that, everything insane comes out of North Korea, but there is no second source.
I'm taking it out of the equation. What I do take in is the point that North Korea, during the years, have, and this is facts, they abducted Japanese film stars for their own harem. They sent submarines and they sent commando teams into South Korea. They do ballistic missiles tests every time they feel like it. And they starve their own people. Yes, this is an extreme country.
Okay, and I'm talking...
An extreme regime.
No, extreme in that. But, Dr. Zamar, maybe
tried to assassinate the entire South Korean government. It was in Rangoon, in Myanmar, Okay, it was 20 years ago, but they tried
Yes,
to...
no, but it was 20 years ago, and then I'm wondering about...
But their regime hasn't changed. It didn't. It's the same one.
Tony, before before I turn to another academic in the studio, you and I, the Shelp, I'm just wondering out loud: is there a call by Americans, because you're there right now in the land of the freedom and spacious skies? Is there a call to attack North Korea over this saga?
There is not, and interestingly, Obama actually, in a sense, according to some latest reports that I've read, he dialed back a little bit on his on sort of, well, he called it cyber vandalism. So in my estimation, he's taken it back a notch from cyber terror. And it also means that the response that will be at America's time and place of his choosing, as he said, now it kind of, it sort of puts the ball in Obama's court. How is this going to be treated like some kind of, graffiti that is a nasty stain on a wall that can just sort of, linger and fade away after the Christmas season?
Right.
Or is he really going to pull some muscle and decide to really go after North Korea in one form or another? He's being pretty ambiguous about that. But I think a lot of Americans are just sort of still captivated by this drama. I mean, just last night on Saturday Night Live, for example, you had Mike Myers opening the show, basically making fun of the entire saga. So there's this comment, and quite hilariously so. And again, it speaks to the issue of a little tiny country, basically, pushing around what is still, by most counts, the most powerful country,
in the world, exactly. And it really quickly.
Push, and what will that pushback be? There is going to be pushback. I think there's a sense that they can't get away from doing this scot-free. But what is it going to be? I mean, right now, I think Obama's on vacation. Maybe he wants to just kind of let this situation
fizzle out. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think maybe it will come in the form of a cyber response, and I don't know what that.
No, and speaking of cyber response, sadly, all the time we have, I want to thank both you, Tony, and obviously Dr. Zummer. Wonderful having you with us. You will be back. As far as we're concerned, you live here. Thank you for being with us this morning. But I want to end this part, first of all, stay with us. We have news from Kobane of somebody who was in there, and that's the city that's having a hard time, is not surrendering to the Islamic State organization. But before that, speaking of the United States, this was the last response from the government of, the Guardians of Peace hackers to the FBI, which makes me question the whole story. If we have that video, stay with us after the news. We'll give you more news. But take a look at what the Guardians of Peace had to say to the FBI. Very bizarre stuff. Good morning. Monday, December 22nd, 2014, I-24 News Morning Edition, the place you should be because it's the only place this week to meet Ruthie Sinai, I-24 News senior news editor. Trying to think of ways of making you blush.
Having sent Tony Grant off to the wilds of Antarctica.
Yes, Antarctica was last week. I think today he's actually
Galapagos.
Galapagos, exactly. He's going to be doing the stops on the map that, like you play Risk. Those places you never get to. But Tony Grant, who's usually here, not in the Galapagos, not going to try and pronounce it, too early for that. With the news you missed while scanning the headlines, on assignment, and we are lucky to have you, Ruthie.
Absolutely.
With all the news we missed while scanning the headlines. What did we miss?
Okay. So Israel's Ynet website had an interesting story yesterday where you could almost hear the jubilation of the Lebanese Prime Minister saying, yes! Because the UN General Assembly voted on a resolution that essentially says Israel has to pay Lebanon $850 million for an oil spill that it caused by bombing a refinery. In 2006, it was
what we call the Lebanon-Israel #2 war.
Sorry, the second Israel-Lebanon war. And, Israel was fighting Hezbollah, which is, fairly deeply entrenched in southern Lebanon at least, and one of the airstrikes they hit.
As happens in war.
It does, and it caused an oil spill all up and down the Lebanese coast, and now they're demanding, essentially reparations.
Which the UN, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, the UN passed this resolution, right?
Yes.
But in the United States vetoed it, Canada did, but this did pass.
Yeah, it passed.
What does that mean? I mean, Israel...
It basically means Israel has to pay up. Now, Israel immediately, of course, issued a statement saying this was biased. A biased resolution, as are most UN resolutions in Israel's eyes, and but nonetheless, they're going to have to pay unless they probably. I'm guessing what's going to happen next is some sort of mediation, international mediation, try and bring down the sum.
No, I wanted to theorize either because $850 million sounds like that's going to put quite a dent in the budget that is yet to be passed in Israel.
True.
But wow, okay, yet another.
What Israel, to be fair, what Israel is basically claiming is that Lebanon allow these Hezbollah people to, fire rockets at us. So what do you expect us to do?
And then hence this is what happens in war. War feels like war. Okay.
Exactly.
Yes. Moving on.
Okay. So turns out, according to Al Arabiya, which is this really nifty website, that it's not so much fun to join the Islamic State anymore. I mean, a lot of Europeans who went looking for adventure and getting away from home and kind of venting their spleen, as they say, at all sorts.
It's a nice
expression.
I like it. Yes.
At all sorts of injustices. They're finding out that it's not all that they signed up for. They're doing a lot of the hard work. They're getting killed.
And if they want to leave,
apparently it's not so easy. This is a story that was actually published originally in the Financial Times.
Right.
And essentially, they interviewed a guy who was talking about morale having hit, a very low ebb. And people just basically wanting to get out and being arrested.
Or it sounds like like the California hotel. You can check in anytime, but you can never leave. But that's
well put. There's apparently also like an IS police, Islamic State police, especially to police these people and make sure they don't get away and do what they're supposed to do.
The internal, what we call, I'm tempted
not the
to use
modesty
certain words.
Police. Yes.
Or as they say, in the Western world, I'm sure people in White House administration or other places. If I were them, I would be sitting there going, okay, let them do it to themselves. But
I'm not going to feel sorry for these people, although of course they don't deserve to be executed.
Nobody does, but as you rightfully put at the beginning of discussing this item, is that if you're sitting at home somewhere in the West in Europe and you're bored and you end up in Syria, you got. The consequences may not be nice.
Yeah. They're young. You know how it is when young people don't think of the consequences. Okay.
And
we're going to Egypt. Also a very sad story. Debauchery. It's another way, basically, of saying, for being gay. This is a really horrible story about a police raid earlier this month on a hammam, on a Turkish bath in Cairo. It was apparently filmed by a television reporter. Somebody called the police. Police came in, rounded up 26 of these mostly young men, half naked, bundled them into a police car, took them to police station, and now they're putting them on trial for debauchery because homosexuality is not illegal in Egypt. However, the government, but the government has been cracking down anyway. There was a famous incident a few months ago with a gay wedding
True.
On a boat in the Nile, which all the participants were also arrested and questioned and so on.
Makes you, what's so sad about this to me is, the immediate implications, and yes, it's horrible, but it's this turn that Egypt is taking over the course of the last several months, and I think that we can say it. We have jailed journalists.
Yeah.
We have freedom of the press that has gone completely out the window, so it seems.
Yeah.
But
this is under a regime that's secular.
That's secular, exactly. This is under a regime that supposedly was the second revolution, but clearly so many things to be said on that front. And
really, really sad story, there. And then you've got the mothers outside the courtroom shouting, "My boys are real men," don't. It's horrible, horrible. Okay.
No.
Another horrible story.
Yeah, thank you
did
for
I
that,
mention
by the
this
way.
was going to
yeah,
be?
no, I was about to say it. And for doom and destruction, Ruthie
yeah,
Sinai.
we should have
Yes.
had a little thing for viewer audience, caution. Okay, Cambodia, little village of 800 people in Cambodia. Dozens of people infected with the HIV virus because of a really horrible doctor who apparently was treating them with infected needles. You've got kids, you've got the
No, I was
elderly.
about to say, we're probably talking children and young infants and whatnot.
Absolutely, who are now, infected. The WHO, the World Health Organization, has sent people in to try, and then they kept doing testing. They couldn't believe it. You've got a 5-year-old boy with HIV, and there's no reason until they tumbled onto this doctor. Yeah, and apparently.
When you look at something there, you wonder also what is done after. First, obviously, the doctor being moved away, but what do you do with these children?
Nothing. You have, they're going to have to be on cocktails and treatment all
for the rest of their lives.
Hopefully, they can get proper treatment.
Yes.
Okay. I think one last gloom and doom story.
Please.
This is kind of, it's open season on cops. Following these
in
decisions.
The United States.
In the United States. Yeah. There's another incident in Florida last night, in addition to the two.
But we don't know if for a fact in Florida, if indeed it was on the racial divide.
Right.
Yeah.
But these are basically, vigilantes or people who are, perhaps not terribly stable, but who basically, are set off by these horrible decisions. Not horrible, I don't know, horrible, but decisions anyway, not to put,
not to indict cops who have killed unarmed black people.
So now there's kind of a backlash. The Police Benevolent Association, which is like their union, is saying, look what you've done.
Right.
And President Obama has kind of had to backtrack and say, this is really horrible. Here are all these.
No, it's an interesting way. We touched on it in the first half hour, but I'm glad you're raising this again because so many fingers are now being, people are pointing fingers at the American president. People are, looking at things that he said. At the end of the day, I think, you and I most of the time say that the racial divide in the United States is not going away at all. And, to make, this is not news. It's just the sad part of it is that, it's gotten to this point in the 21st century.
Absolutely.
You can see the divide so much. Yes.
And a lot of civil rights leaders are coming out against this kind of
counterattack.
All right, so something happier.
Something happy. One last thing happy, please.
One last thing?
Yes.
Okay, so quickly, Elton John married his partner, their husband
Again?
and husband. I don't know. Was there a
no? Haven't they been together for years?
Yeah. So for
they
10 years.
finally got married.
They finally tied the knot. And one last one. What are you getting your dog for Christmas?
What am I getting my dog for Christmas?
Yeah.
I'm giving him my cats.
Oh, that's a great that's a good one. Okay.
What do you get your dog for Christmas?
Sorry, this is but I have to tell you, in Japan, dogs, cats are far more cosseted and gifted than kids. There's a decline in birth rate. People are giving their dogs and cats spa treatments and Christmas dinner and Christmas lunch. And
we should be so lucky. No, I have to say, whenever I hear that, I'm always thinking, nice. Dogs in Japan are getting spas. What are we getting here, Ruthie?
Yeah,
what?
I know.
Okay. Ruthie
Pompeii.
Yes. Exactly. Ruthie Sinai, thank you so much for being with us. And with us again tomorrow morning as Tony is going to be, investigating wine in south of France. Thank you. On to our next topic. Kurdish fighters battling Islamic State forces in Syria and on the Syria-Turkey border town of Kobane have made gains in recent days, advancing in 6 neighborhoods and besieging an IS-held cultural center east of the city. Now, the jihadist group began its Kobane offensive in mid-September, with developments on the ground grabbing international headlines. The street-level battle captured the world's imagination, providing constant visuals of the front line of the war against ISIS, which proved harder to combat in Kobane more than in any other city. Hundreds of fighters on both sides have been killed, and there is no indication that the battle for Kobane will be decided anytime soon. Before we delve into the subject, because we do have information coming out of Kobane by the fabulous Hermione G, who actually went in there, let's take a look at Mandy Kogosowski's report about the latest from Kobane and take it from there.
It has now been over 3 months since the siege on Kobane began, and the end is nowhere to be seen. This past weekend, Kurdish forces have advanced further into the town, killing, by some reports, over 30 Islamic State militants, following heavy clashes. This modest achievement can be seen as quite encouraging, not only from the military point of view, but also since Kobane has long surpassed its status as just another spot on the Islamic State's map of terror. The small Kurdish border town has evolved into something much more, a symbol of resistance, a symbol of hope.
We will not leave Kobane. We will not abandon it. Kobane is constructed of our blood and soul.
Islamic State militants started advancing towards Kobane in mid-September, destroying many towns and villages on their way. In early October, the militants stood at the city's gates and raised their black flag on a nearby hill. U.S. airstrikes and heavy battles on the ground were not sufficient for Iraqi Kurds, who decided to join the efforts and help their besieged brothers. After difficult negotiations with the Turkish government, hundreds of Peshmerga fighters crossed into Syrian territory through Turkish land and joined the fight for Kobane.
Iraqi Kurdish Regional President Masoud Barzani ordered the Peshmerga forces to come to Kobane because our Kurdish brothers in Kobane need us. Islamic State is a terrorist group and is fighting Kurds in Kobane.
Aside from the fighters on both sides, Kobane is now all but deserted, with only some 2,000 residents left in the place which once provided a safe haven for refugees who escaped the Syria war. According to recent reports, Turkey is now hosting some 200,000 refugees from the Kobane area, and tens of thousands more have fled to the Kurdistan region in Iraq, where they brace themselves for a harsh winter. And one must wonder who will end up with the upper hand, IS or the Kurdish spirit.
We're joined from Lyon, France, but usually she who usually is in Erbil, Iraq, by freelance reporter Hermione G. Hermione, good morning to you. You just came back from 4 days in Kobane, and it was just a month ago that you and I were almost, every other morning discussing the situation there, a 3-month-long battle of Peshmerga fighters, people fighting the Islamic State organization. I want to hear from you first of all. Is it true that Kobane right now is just basically a deserted battlefield? Tell us what you saw in Kobane.
Well, it's certainly very, very empty, but there are a surprising number of civilians living in the town who either went to Turkey and didn't like the conditions there and came back or just never left in the first place, which I was very surprised by. I didn't realize that many civilians had stayed because the conditions there are obviously still, one, very, very dangerous. There's constant mortar attacks by ISIS on the city. You never know where the mortars are going to land. And there's gunfights constantly also. But as well, for civilians, the very, very limited supplies. I mean, very little. There's enough food, but very, very basic supplies for everybody. So it's remarkable that so many people have chosen to stay.
No, chosen to stay, or as you mentioned, either return from Turkey after fleeing across the border and come back to what clearly sounds like, the scene out of a film of a battleground. And I want to touch about Kobane, what you mentioned just now. Over the course of the weekend, there were reports that 33 IS fighters were killed by forces in Kobane, that, the people of Kobane or the people fighting IS are making gains. Is that something that's felt in Kobane? How is the city divided? And, this has been, a 3.5-month battle, hasn't it? Who is really making gains there? I think that's what we were sitting outside of that area, are trying to understand. Who's in control of the city?
Well, right now, certainly the Kurdish forces say that they have about 70% of the city. They've reclaimed, they obviously never lost the whole city, but at one point they'd lost a huge portion of the city. And they've now reclaimed about 70%, they say. So a lot of that is street fighting that's happening inside the city, which gives the Kurdish forces something of an advantage because the ISIS depend enormously on heavy weapons, which apparently are just not that useful inside the city. So talking to the Kurdish forces last week, they were saying that they are making very steady progress, but it's slow and it takes time. So people have to be patient, but they are certainly feeling very optimistic, and you can feel it. You can feel it in the air. You can feel it when you talk to people. You see the fighters going off to the battlefields in the morning, and they are remarkably optimistic, buoyant. So there's definitely a sense inside Kobane that they have the upper hand.
Hermione G, sadly, all the time we have. Fascinating stuff. Very glad you came out of there safe, and so happy to have you with us this morning. When we get back, something different. Hannukah is here. It's not Christmas. We'll take a closer look at the world's biggest dreidel. Stay with us. First, the news. Welcome back. It's still Monday, December 22nd, 2014. This is still the morning edition. Last I checked, I'm Yael Avi. Thank you for staying with us because this one's going to be a doozy, we say in English. Tal Shalev is so excited that she's actually finding it hard to breathe right next to me. Okay, it's Hannukah. Jews in Israel and around the world are celebrating Hannukah, the festival of lights, one to combat Christmas, commemorating the Jewish revolt against the Greeks in the 2nd century before Christ and their rededication of the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. That's all I know about Hannukah. Above all, eating lots of carbs, okay? One of the more charming traditions of the holiday is the dreidel, a children's toy that ensures that the young ones don't lose interest with all the talk of retaining religious identity and resisting assimilation. Something that many people in politics nowadays, I think, are finding very relevant. The origin of the game dates back to the time when studying Torah was punishable by death and Jews used top spinning as a cover for their study. Now that all I just read to you guys from a prompt, I'm going to leave that aside because we are joined in studio by Dreidel artist Eran Grebler. Perfect, lovely. Tal Shalev is with me. I'm just trying to embarrass her. I-24 News diplomatic correspondent. Eran Grebler, he owns the biggest dreidel store in the world. Not just in Israel, not just in the Middle East, in the world. He's right, it's right here in Israel. Good morning to you. Happy Hannukah, Eran.
Good morning.
I mean, I really think that we need to move to all the stuff that is spinning out here on the table. And actually, yes, there is one here. Yeah, okay. This is the, we're going to introduce this dreidel. It's a beautiful, beautiful dreidel.
This is a dreidel for beginners.
For beginners.
So when you come to my gallery in Sarona, Tel Aviv,
right,
you have to spin this dreidel, spin it.
No, I don't want to spin it. I'll tell you why, because I'm here to embarrass Tal Shalev. This is a dreidel that says blessing on it, okay? And it has all kinds of blessing and things that you want. And Tal Shalev has many, many things she wants, one of them including John Kerry. But that said, you have to spin it very, very, very lightly. Very lightly, very lightly. And
no, spin it. Don't be afraid.
Spin it all the way? All the way, spin.
Spin it, and when it stops, you got a nice blessing.
We'll get the blessing.
Tal,
you're getting success.
Success.
Actually, it's divided between success and health.
Yeah, that's not what I was hoping for, but thank you, Yael, for your greeting.
No, thank you for that. Very much concerned for you. Tell me about these dreidels. They're incredible, but it's not something that I would give my 2-year-old, right?
No.
Okay. You do them yourself?
Yes, of course. I do. I make dreidels a lot of years, more than 30 years.
Right.
And I used to sell them to all the world. And my dream was to make a dreidel house that everyone that come to my gallery can
spinning again.
Can spin a dreidel and see.
And see what comes out.
Yes, but the idea is when I've been with in my gallery.
Yes, no. I'm spinning along. Yes, I'm doing something here with my hand on the side. When people come to your gallery.
When people come to my gallery, they're allowed to touch the things. The difference is that people can
actually feel the dreidel. I gotta say, these are dreidels that are not, they're not your. In Hebrew, it's a miracle, a great miracle happened here.
Yes,
right.
I have the
you have the traditional ones, right?
Yes,
you have the real
this
traditional
is the traditional one.
Okay, which we're spinning and we can't show. I mean, I'll just put it on my hand. It's gorgeous stuff. It's gorgeous, gorgeous stuff.
Thanks. It's all my works, and it's all made in Israel, not in China.
Don't tell that to the North Koreans, okay? And and all handmade. Is there a big demand for dreidels still? Because I always feel with Hannukah, I have to say, that it's the holidays, it's the Jewish holiday that tries to combat Christmas, and you can't really do that in many ways because Christmas is so, it's colorful. It's got the present mark. This comes close because on the other hand we have donuts. Just look, don't eat. We're not allowed to eat them. No. I still don't get. I still don't get the idea behind, a load of carb with, with jam in it. But we have the dreidel that tries to combat Christmas. And you are actually doing it. Is there a demand for these dreidels? That's what I wonder.
Yes, of course. I have 800 kinds of dreidels. This one is a men's dreidel, what to say to women. The men have to spin it and tell you what you got.
And tell you what you've got. Once again, Tal Shalev is going to be
good at this Dreidel model.
The Dreidel model. Yeah, exactly. There we go. What to say to a woman, and this is a woman who knows what men should say. So this is what
you got.
She got. I miss you a lot. That is, somebody misses you. I think it might be John Kerry.
Many men
It might be John Kerry.
And this one
Yes.
is excuses for married woman.
Excuses for a married woman?
That's for you.
Yes, read it. Read it.
Okay, hold on. I love you, but I've had a hard day. I use that daily.
It's daily.
Yeah. I have a headache. Always. Honey, maybe tomorrow. I didn't say a word. I have no idea what this is about. I really have no idea.
You forgot to say yes, sure.
Yes, sure. Honey, maybe tomorrow. Yes, sure.
You forgot the other choice.
The other choice, not today.
Very small statistics. That's the one that the spinning top will follow.
What else do we have here? This is actually
okay.
brilliant.
This is
the cat dreidel.
After mouth.
Okay. Very
This is a dreidel with a happy hand.
With a happy ending?
Happy ending,
Depends for who. I'm not sure the mouse.
The mouse agrees, exactly. A dreidel with a happy ending. That's the way you should market them. Do they ship abroad as well? Do they sell abroad, these
yes,
dreidels?
of course. I sell it a lot to a lot of places all over the world.
And what do you do throughout the rest of the year? It's an interesting thing. I mean,
most of the dreidels are not for Hannukah. This one for blessing and for a woman.
For a woman, what to say, exactly. Okay.
I have 800 choices, so it's not only for Hannukah. And the gallery is in Sarona, Tel Aviv.
Is there any other thing like a dreidel in other cultures, not a Jewish culture? Did they have like games like this in other cultures?
Yes, of course.
Where?
The dreidels are not
not exclusive to Jews?
No.
So can't believe it.
I know. In my gallery in Sarona, I have a sign that explains all the history of the dreidels, and it's not from the Jews.
But is it from the region? Is it from the Middle East?
No, it's the first one from Sicily.
From Sicily?
Yes.
It's much more exotic now.
Dreidel, I made it out of pasta? Okay, yes, I'm going to leave that one alone. But you are staying with us because these are fabulous, and I think we can actually have a play with them when it comes to how it connects to politics this year. I mean, it's these dreidels that are outstanding and are hard to pick from. When it comes to Israeli politics, I'm not so sure. Stay with us. Because this year, Hannukah coincides with the elections campaign season. And when holidays and election mix, it often, results in much fodder for us in the media and for all the updates from the political front, because it is the holiday season. I think in the holiday seasons, politicians actually have the opportunity to showcase, right?
Well, it's the second time actually in the past few years that the Hannukah specifically falls on like a few weeks before the election or a few months before the elections. So I have to say, for me, it's the second time I've been, I have to deal with all of these on a daily basis. But think about the Israeli politicians. They have, some of them have primary elections coming up. They have to every evening go and meet with the party activists and eat lots of donuts. I can bet you that every Israeli politician gains about 1 or 2 kilos in this week of Hannukah. But basically, it is this year. It is the politicians' holiday, and we made a short report summing up how it looks. If we can take a look.
Let's take a look at Tal Shalev's report.
Whether it's the smell of the fresh potato pancakes or the plunge of the donuts, Hannukah, the Jewish festival of lights, is one of the most popular holidays of the year. Israeli politicians are especially fond of the December festivities, and even more when the holiday comes just as the election campaign begins. Think about it. 8 nights of candle lighting, lots of good food, and merry songs. What a great opportunity to meet with party activists and rally political support. Hannukah is a minor religious festival, but one with many political and social meanings. It commemorates a miraculous rededication of the Second Temple by the Maccabees, a group of courageous warriors that defeated the far more powerful Syrian Greek army. The symbolic victory of light over darkness and Jewish liberation overcoming foreign oppression creates a legacy that is easy for modern interpretation.
This is the spirit of the Maccabees. The guardian of Israel will neither slumber nor sleep.
While the Israeli Prime Minister hails the lesson of military self-defense, others prefer to highlight other traditions and symbolic customs. Tzipi Livni, aiming to replace the premier, tried her luck with the dreidel, a spinning top with 4 Hebrew letters, which together stand for a great miracle happened here.
Whatever the public does, it won't be a miracle. We remember the miracles of the past, but our job is to care for the reality and the future.
In election time, everything can be disputed, even the modern relevance of holiday symbols. One thing is agreed: everyone will be happy to get their own political Hannukah miracle.
Quickly, before we continue, that would be the Sarona Dreidel shop. Tzipi Livni, striking hard, heart of Tel Aviv. This would be that shop, definitely.
And how symbolic is it that Tzipi Livni didn't go to just a traditional candle lighting, but she went to a spin contest?
Rum-pum-pum.
Rum-pum-pum.
Yes.
But the great, Hannukah isn't only celebrated in Israel. Every foreign leader, the White House jumps in, Joe Biden jumps in, everyone jumps in. Yeah,
okay.
Everyone jumps in to host their own Hannukah candle lighting because it is a very nice holiday, we have to say. It's not a harsh, it's not a strict religious holiday.
It's not, because I always feel that Jewish holidays are, like sum up in the same way. We get together and, tell the story about everybody tried to kill us. Our God prevailed, he killed them, let's eat.
Exactly.
Right? Okay. So
and we have to spend some few hours with our family, which for some of us isn't that much fun.
What are you talking about? Yes.
Yes. One of the surprising greetings of this Hannukah holiday was from a person we discussed just a few weeks ago, the Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi.
Yes.
Look, so me, Tal Shalev, sitting on Friday afternoon, just browsing through Twitter, and look who greets us in Hebrew. Narendra Modi, the Indian Prime Minister.
Look at that.
Wishing my Jewish friends a happy Hanukkah. May this festival of lights and the festive season ring in peace, hope, and well-being for all. And look who answers him.
Look who answers. The Prime Minister of Israel.
The Prime Minister in Israel, in Indian. So I think that's what I call the diplomacy.
Does Israel have peace with India? It does, right?
It has a very good relationship with
India.
And this is actually getting closer and just a very, very good example for this good relationship. But if we're talking about candles, then I think we almost missed it out last week, but definitely the song of the week goes to the Israeli Prime Minister, who has a Walla website, the Israeli website, is making a big project of all of the 2014 best songs. So they took the song Chandelier by Sia.
By far one of the best songs of 2014.
Well,
the overplayed video.
And Netanyahu's version is quite good. And let's hear it.
Do we have that? Yeah, let's take a look.
Can't feel anything. When I pushed it down. I'm the one for a good time. Call phones blowing up, ringing my doorbell. I feel the love. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Drink. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Drink. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Drink. Rolling back till I lose count. I'm gonna swing from the chandelier.
The only thing that it's missing to me, because what I have running in my head right now is Bibi Netanyahu in a white tank top. Playing in the Sia, the famous video, right? That's the image that they have. It's Bibi Netanyahu swinging from a chandelier. Wait, we're spinning the dreidel. I'm spinning it. I'm spinning with you, honey.
Liked it. Yeah. He liked it. The Prime Minister himself liked it. But even Sia liked it. She tweeted. We saw our tweet by mistake a bit earlier. She tweeted, "Holy moly, this is amazing." That was her tweet.
How did Sia get to see? Well, who did this, by the way?
Walla website.
The Walla website.
The Walla website. Two of their creative editors.
That is amazing, and the fact that Sia, I was about to say, Sia clearly, Netanyahu clearly has a supporter with Sia, but maybe she too, like you, Tal Shalev, sits on Friday and screams through.
Or maybe she knows how, like me, she knows how to identify good quality
videos
immediately when she sees it. I mean, this one was a hit. It started a viral hit immediately when it was posted on the Walla website.
And it's quite genius.
And
it's quite genius.
It's quite
really
genius.
Quite
It really is exquisite. Some of the things we can be proud
it's
of.
explicit. And I have to say, when Walla does something like that, it's something I'm wondering out with you. It's almost like a campaign video in a little bit. Right?
Netanyahu is definitely happy. Yeah.
You're going like that. Okay. So that's them. Does this campaign? But continue. You had something to say. No, but does the campaign season, when it falls on the holiday like this, and as you said at the beginning, very rightfully so, it gives all the politicians almost a platform to go around and and campaign in a way that is very, very visual. In this day and age, who's doing best? Because every time I have you in studio, I'm wondering out loud with you. Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Well, Naftali Bennett, because he's still riding on the fame of his last week's No Apology video. Bennett has definitely, at the moment, found the best slogan, or at least the most catchiest slogan of the elections, not apologizing. Every video of his is not apologizing, and that does appeal to a big part of the Israeli psyche.
That said, we are about to wrap this half hour. This is amazing. Go to the Sarona, if you're in Israel, go to the Sarona shop of the Dreidel spinning. Tal Shalev, my model here, please spin this as we get out of this half hour and move into, first the news, but then the sports. Stay with us because we'll have the answer of what the future of Tal Shalev holds as we get back. Good morning. Thank you for staying with us. It is December 22nd. It is officially 10 days to the New Year's? Something like that, right? It's 10 days to the New Year's. It's going to be 2015. That's a frightening number. And you're here with us on I-24 News Morning Edition. It's the place to be, and I'll tell you why. She was gone. She wasn't here. She left us last week, but she's back.
Hello.
And we have to embarrass I-24 News editor and feminist expert and the woman here to tell you anything and everything you need to know about the battle for equality, which we're still waging. It's Karen Kirsch. Yes. And by the way, Karen, I'm just reminded that, we started the show with President Obama, who gave a year-ender speech in the United States. And one of the things that he did, and I want you and myself to actually look a bit closely at it, he spent the entire presser just addressing the women journalists and answering only women journalists, and even being very personal with them. Do we have it? I think we do. And let's take a look at Obama talking to a Belgian woman in the press on Friday at the White House.
And by the way, I hear you're moving to Europe. Where are you going to be?
Brussels.
Brussels?
Yes. Helping Politico start a new publication.
Well, congratulations.
I've been covering you since the beginning, so.
Well, I think there's no doubt that what Belgium needs is a version of Politico. Yeah, the waffles are delicious.
It
always makes me wonder if it would be the same if it were a man.
A man, I know. Would it be the same if it were a man? I think, I read the headlines about the American president addressing just the women in the audience over that presser on Friday, and I found it very sweet. And then I thought, I don't know. I don't know if they need one day specifically in the year.
Yeah.
What does it spell to you?
I'm not exactly. I don't remember what's the makeup of the press corps in the White House. I think
a lot of men,
but I think the number of women is growing even there, because it's one of these things. As press is going down and the prestige of being a journalist is going down. You have more women in the White House.
As the profession is losing its ground, more women are entering it. Yes. Now we can make it more available for women, definitely. But you're here with, I think the old age, ancient news of a woman who's successful, FYI, in business, is alternatively and immediately deemed a
swear word. I'll say it because that's my role.
She's called a bitch. Okay. Yes. Yeah. It's one bitch to another.
Yes.
Not that we're successful.
Such a,
I know. Tell me, where does that stand nowadays?
Well, that's actually a viral video that's been running by three students from Columbia Business School. Nice. I think it's. I'm not sure if it's number 3 or number 4.
I think
number 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not what it used to be, I'm a semi-graduate of Columbia.
Yeah. Columbia now now an Ivy League at the bottom of 3 of the list.
Yes. They're doing, they did a viral video based on Megan, which I don't remember you know, I'm a bae.
I'm a bae. Okay, let's take a look, and it will come to us. This is the viral video about women in the business world from Colombia. Let's take a look.
And my mama, she told me that boys prefer girls who smile. Don't worry about brains, just twerk those feminine wiles. You know I won't be no soft-spoken, timid, doormat cliche. Because the harder I work, then the harder I get to play. Because come on, you know that I'm a bitch, I'm a bitch. Bottle popping, you know that I'm a bitch, I'm a bitch. Briefs dropping, you know that I'm a bitch, I'm a bitch. In business, you know that I'm a bitch in charge. Glass ceiling's gonna fall, cause I'm a goddamn human wrecking ball. Don't make me mute you on this conference call. My time is money, and bitch, I won't be resting till my name is on the wall. Yeah, I don't have a dick, but that doesn't make me a fool.
High five me. High five me. I will not rest till my name is on that wall.
No, and there are quite a few one-liners in
No,
this
definitely,
video.
definitely. And I'm a human wrecking ball.
Yes, yes.
I mean, likey. I got to say, Tal Heinrich, obviously still with us in studio. You were a bit shiny before, but we had makeup put on you. I'm sharing everything with the
Another
audience.
female journalist.
A female journalist.
And she's going to speak about sports
Yeah, in a second. I'm just saying, I
Mhm.
wanted to introduce you because when I'm looking at that video, and I think that people will poo-poo us that, things are changing. First of all, it's necessary. Tell me more about who brought this out.
Well, the girls who sort of did that, it's part of something they do in the end of each year. But the thing is that they're trying to protest, and it is a protest, and it's a nice protest. And the original video, Meghan Trainor's video, is about body image, and it's kind of very cutie and pastel. and in this video, they're really saying like hardcore stuff.
Yeah, hardcore stuff. Yeah.
Which most of it I can't even quote.
And they start with, they start with the pastel. I love also the use of men as the icons of sexual, of sexual attraction.
I have to read you one line. I'm gonna see
read the line.
if I can sort of,
Bleep out. Just say bleep.
Bleep out.
Yeah, what you can't read. Yeah.
Okay, now making these suits look good while I close that wage gap is not so, but business is for boys.
Yeah.
Tell that to my stay-home beep toy.
Nice.
I love that. Okay.
No, it's brilliant. But touching on this issue directly, because that video is great, and I love that it starts pinkish and kind of like the 50s. Yeah. They're wearing all these dresses where a woman was, in the kitchen with my new oven, whatnot, and the words that you say. But a major point in this day and age is that women who are successful in any type of business
are definitely considered
the B word,
the B word, and it's more than that. It's the, I think we've spoken about it at least once, that all the studies show that while a man who comes for a job interview and appears to be, let's say, cocky,
right,
he would be considered a talent or somebody to look out for, and she would be considered a problem.
A problem, arrogant, overstepping her boundaries, doing all the things as if, who does she think she is?
Yeah,
who does she think she is?
And there's also an inherent, like the radical feminist would say, well, this is a problem. Because they say at some point in this video, if I'm a bitch, I'm doing something right, okay? The radical feminist would say, no, that means we're still way off.
Way behind. And I'm wondering also if it only comes from men, because I got to tell you, from personal experience, when you look at it's not.
No.
It's women in the workforce, when they see another woman being promoted or when they see a woman that is, gaining traction, they will join on the chorus of, it's, she's hardcore, she's there, she's arrogant.
They will sometimes be even more vocal.
Even worse, exactly.
And I think our biggest problem as women is that we don't do enough networking and women promotion as women to say, this is a cause, this is my cause, I don't mind doing it, it doesn't...
Exactly. No, exactly. Video, though, beautiful and lovely. Tal Heinrich is sitting here going, okay.
No, I was trying to think, what's my attitude towards this?
Yeah, what is your attitude towards it?
No, I'm just saying, I never had the opportunity to interview somebody for a job, but I think I will address it the same.
The same way?
I mean...
No, as you should.
I'm trying to think, but I don't know. Maybe you interviewed people before.
Yeah. That said, Tal Heinrich here with the viral spiral that is the web review. because we're going to finish on a slightly lighter note. It's been slightly a depressing Monday when it comes to news around the world.
Oh, so I'm so glad I insisted on this video.
No, very much so. And you know what? From one bitch to another. Thank you, but you are locked in the studio with us, and we're moving to you. I'm not going to call you the B word, but you want to be one. Trust me.
Well,
yes.
Of course. I want to start with the holidays. I know you've spoken about the holidays before, but let's start with Christmas. And I brought you two lovely videos which involved the game of basketball, which I love, and Christmas. So the first one is a very nice initiative that took place in the Italian Basketball League for the first time. It's called Teddy Bear Toss. I don't know if you heard about it. It's coming.
Like literally a teddy bear?
Teddy Bear Toss, yeah. It's coming. It came
sad.
from ice hockey, and the entire
the
Italian
first Teddy Bear
basketball.
Toss night in Italian basketball.
We have a video to.
Let's take a look at the video.
Once
first.
the game starts and the first basket is scored, then all the fans start
throwing
to throw teddy bears
we
on
gotta
the
take
court.
A look. Let's take a look at the video.
All right.
I got peace deep in my soul. I got love making me whole. Saying to go hand up your heart and shine on me. I got peace deep in my soul. I got love.
Yeah, this was in Olympia, Milano, but also in Bologna.
It's
and
the
Pisa.
Woodstock of teddy bears.
And of course, somebody gathers all these teddy bears, and then the players go to hospitals and they bring it to children and to charity, and it's amazing. We should do it here. We should do it here in Israel. Seriously.
No, we really should. We really should.
The second, I don't know if you're fans of the NBA, but
I think we're about to become fans of the NBA.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or let's
but
fake it.
Another Christmas tradition is the Christmas Day matchups, which are very attractive, and there's always like a double header broadcast, sometimes on ESPN.
I know what it is.
You know what it is?
I'm so glad you raised your hand. I have no idea what you're talking about.
So one of the Christmas Day matchups is going to be the Washington Wizards against the New York Knicks, and ESPN started. They had this great idea to promote both this matchup and also Taken 3 that is about to
come
be
out.
released, I think, January.
January, that's a film.
Somewhere.
Taken 3, it's taken.
Yeah, with Liam Neeson. So John Wall from the Washington Wizards promoted it with Liam Neeson. Let's take
This
a
is
look.
going to make sense to all of you once you watch the following video clip. Let's take a look.
What's up? The team I support has a very particular set of skills. Skills they've acquired over a fearless career. They move fast. They shoot with unthinkable accuracy. They know how to defend themselves. And they train around the clock. What that means for you is this. Christmas Day, they're going to unleash their skills on you and your team. And they're going to defeat you.
Yeah, he says they're going to defeat you. Well,
yeah.
John Wall doesn't care. He's just
like, yeah, whatever.
Bring it up.
Bring it up. Bring it on. Bring it on.
I don't know who's
bring it
going
on.
to win. I don't think the Knicks are going to win.
No, you don't think
I mean, never. But
I'm
yes.
quite horrified by what you just said right now, because the Knicks are practically the only ones I know. I gotta say. But yes. Yeah.
Okay, now let's move on. We've spoken enough about Christmas. Now, some Hannukah time. So NBA might not be your thing, but Hogwarts School of Magic?
Yes. Tough
All right,
crowd
so
today.
have you ever wondered, was there a Jew in Hogwarts?
Actually,
Hold on, stop.
I haven't.
Because
I don't know
Christmas,
why.
you remember the Christmas atmosphere there, right? The lovely dinner and all the
Exactly, and it's
decorations.
Christmas, there was
But what
no-
about Hanukkah in Hogwarts?
That's very true.
So, Benjamin Rothman, he's some
I
person
just
from
want to touch on
Chicago.
the issue that is a very smart issue. Was Harry Potter anti-Semitic?
With these glasses. Yeah, come on.
Yes, okay. Was there Hanukkah in Hogwarts?
Well, according to J.K. Rowling, there was. I mean, somebody tweeted
We just kept
her.
him in the basement. No way.
Someone from Chicago named Benjamin Rothman tweeted J.K. Rowling this question: were there any Jews at Hogwarts? And then she says, well, yeah, Anthony Goldstein. He was a part. If you remember this figure.
I don't know who he is.
She doesn't know who he is. But
She just made this up. Come on, I'm not buying.
No, but then she's elaborating. She says, he was a part of Dumbledore's army and fought alongside his comrades at the Battle of Hogwarts.
Wasn't Dumbledore the bad guy?
No, the one.
No, I was never.
So every time we light a candle, we should remember Brave Goldstein.
Baby, I just want to say that I don't remember him from the book. I don't remember him from the movies, and I think she just made it up because she got that tweet and went, right, Jews.
And
okay.
now, do we have time to the next one?
Yes, and moving
okay,
on.
so it's not only holiday season, it's also duck season because one duck got very, very lucky during this holiday in Norway. He got stuck under ice, but then a very brave swimmer, a very brave swimmer, 38-year-old Lars Jorn.
Lars Jorn?
Yeah, exactly.
Of course.
He said he saved it.
Oh my God.
He saved it. Yeah, it's so
being
cute.
given-
He was
Oh,
stuck
my
under
word.
ice. He said, I realized that it was trapped and had forgotten where the hole was, that he had to come through.
It really looks cool. I was wondering if...
But the funny part, here comes the funny part. He says, when I got it to the shore, it still wasn't moving, so I gave it a mouth-to-beak
Mouth
CPR.
resuscitation.
Yeah, resuscitation. And then,
Lars might be the story here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the duck probably opened his eyes, looked at the beard, and went, I want to go back to the
and
water.
before we run out of time, I want to move on to the next duck. There's another duck from one duck to another.
From one duck to another.
Let's
it's really
move on.
creepy stuff. It's
His
like, okay,
name
yeah.
is Jordan James Park, and he spent more than $150,000 to become like Kim Kardashian, to replicate her
God,
image.
It's heartbreaking. And then, but he ended up looking like that.
He's a makeup artist. I mean, so, you know.
Yes, I'm choking.
He
Oh
says,
my
I love
God.
everything about Kim. She's the most
Tell me
gorgeous
this is
woman.
reversible. This is not plastic surgery.
I don't think
hope.
so.
It's not reversible.
But
oh my
but you know
God.
what's amazing about this
Karen
guy?
Pierce is horrified.
Karen, she just.
Karen, your face says it all.
Hey, this costed
Oh
him-
my God, look at that. Oh my God, he will be pouting for the rest of his life. It's the look of, yeah.
But
I don't like this Dolce &
more than
Gabbana.
50 procedures.
Yeah, what?
Really horrible.
Yes, but you know, when people like you react like this to his appearance, he says, I laugh when people try to insult me by telling me I look plastic or fake, he reveals. Do they think I'm going for the natural look?
No.
If I
No,
was,
I was-
I'd ask for my money back. I mean,
Sadly,
that's
all
a
the
sense of
time we
humor.
have. No, and you're totally right. Honestly, with the time we have, don't forget to check us on all those social networks. It's Twitter and Facebook and whatnot, the Morning Edition. And we're here to tell you, do not do that to your face, okay? You're lovely just the way you are. And tune in tomorrow morning, I-24 News Morning Edition, the place you should be every single day. Oh, my God.